17 points in 16 plays in the first quarter. And definitely punched us. When you go 44 yards for a touchdown, you return a punt for a touchdown, and you give up and you hold them to a field goal off of an interception and for 1 yard, and get 17 points before you could even blink. We couldn't overcome the turnovers, and the points that occurred off the turnovers of 24 points. I think that was definitely the difference in the first half. Offensively, back within 7 mid-second quarter, but couldn't overcome an interception that and led to a short field that put them up. And disappointed in our inconsistency offensively, and not being able to run the football. That's couldn't get the field position was such a major issue, especially coming back in and looking back over things. Our average starting field position offensively was the 20, and in the second half, more in particular, when you're trying to rally any type of comeback at all, your average starting field position was the 16-yard line. We poor on third down and lack of explosive plays. Not that we weren't trying to push the ball deep. Defensively, we had to work off the short field. The sudden change, it seemed like they were on sudden change alert most of the day. And the average starting field position that you put your defense in that we did was the 43-yard line. They had 20 drives, which is incredible when you consider the average. You usually average somewhere around 14 to 17 possessions a game. They had 20. 8 of those started on inside our 50-yard line. 3 more of those were at midfield, so 11 of their 20 drives, they had to go less than 60 yards. It's hard to beat anybody when you give someone a short field like that. Had 7 3-and-outs defensively. We gave up 3 points in the second half. There were some positives out of it. I thought our guys rallied. We had 9 hurries, 8 pass breakups. We knew the ball was going to come out of his hand, but we couldn't get home at times. I did not think we tackled well in space. We gave up 8 plays that resulted in 221 yards, and 7 of those were passes and 1 was a run. The other 67 plays, we held them to 162 yards. I do know that we're good enough to eliminate these mistakes, and as I mentioned earlier, it's back to basics. But in the end, our guys continue to play hard, and they continue to fight, and they compete, and we got to get better. We got to get better in all areas, and it starts with everyone looking in the mirror, and going back to our basics and focusing it on us. We've got a very tough opponent we're going to play this week in Auburn, and we got our work cut out for us. They got as good a front 7 defensively as I've seen. They're going to run the football. I'm very familiar with their style of play and their defense. I've worked with Kevin at my time in Clemson, and I've known Chip and obviously my relationship with Gus. But we've got our work cut out for us. But again, we've got to go back to what can we do, and offensively, and go back to getting better. Ty Story will start for us, and as we take this thing forward, and we look forward to this challenge. More importantly, of improving ourselves each and every day. And so, with that, I'll open up.
What went into going with Ty Story as the starter?
Well, I think the message is that we want to settle on someone, and we came into the game last week with the intent to settle with Cole and be there, and that's why we went with him in the second half, and I wanted to see if we could work through some things, and we got in a point in the second half, especially after the last interception, and they go down and kick a field goal and put them up 27-10 or 37-10, and it was I just felt like that putting Ty in that situation there would have been I've been saying all along I want to get the freshmen some reps, and that was an opportunity for us to do that. And I just thought that it's time to go with Ty and give him an even slate as he starts the game. So that was what's went behind it.
Chad, how do you think Ty responded after not playing last week?
Well, I think Ty is a professional. I think he is a competitor, and as all of them do, they all want to play, and and so it was, as I shared with him, I wanted to go with through the last week of preparation of practice. As I shared with you, I thought Cole had the best week, and I was content with let's see if we can settle in and ride this thing out with Cole. And this has kind of been the situation we've been in, and I just we're going with Ty this week, and Ty's regardless of the practice, regardless of the way things go, and I wanted him to know straight up from yesterday that, look, we're going to go with you, and let's respond. And now, instead of putting you in to where you're in a tough situation to see with the momentum not in your favor, how would you respond? And so that was my intent, and shared that with him yesterday. And his exact words to me, he said, "Let's go, Coach."
Numbers of players that you're playing on offense, wide receiver, even the offensive line, the backfield, quarterback. How hard is it to get a mesh in to have consistency?
Well, you want to settle in as much as you can. From an offensive line standpoint, you're still trying to create some depth and get the right combination in there. You do. You want to try to create some consistency. So, yeah, that's been very hard. It has. Depth-wise at wide receiver, we're trying to play a lot of guys and get them some experience as we move into conference play. And so, that comes with it. Yeah, we will definitely narrow it down. I think we're only going to travel 70 this week.
What does it entail to get back to running your base offense? What do you have to do to get that done? And also, what was Cole's response to you naming Ty already this week?
First of all, Cole was disappointed in the fact that the outcome of last week and the way things went. He was on the sidelines and very encouraging to the freshmen that went in, and going back to just our basics, just what can we do? Let's as I mentioned to the staff, let's reduce, let's simplify, and let's give clarity, let's find some things that we can do, and let's hang our hat on it as we continue to battle through the storm that we're in, and that's been my message to our players.
As far as Hunter, is there anybody else you look at besides the two you have, or is there anybody else that you even can look at besides the two you have?
Right now, that's what we have, and we're going to continue to keep getting those guys better.
Coach, let's talk about the kind of the transition you're in, and maybe what surprised you a little bit. You go into these games, I'm sure, expecting to win these last two games, and maybe what surprised you that didn't occur.
Well, I think Bo, the biggest thing, obviously, you go into every ball game expecting to win, and as I've shared with our players, I mean, if you don't believe, don't get on the plane, and matter of fact, don't even come out to practice if you don't believe, and because that's at that point it's a if you can't believe that things are moving in the right direction, there's no business being here, but I it's just going back to the basics of what we do, and the surprising thing is just to get everybody to understand that when adversity happens, and it's going to take us going through some adverse times. And I really thought last week you're down 17, and in my mind was, okay, we were up 17 last week. We can come back. It's an early game. I mean, there's so much time left in this game, and that's what I kept. My message on the sidelines was, look, there's a lot of ball left here, guys. There's a lot of ball left. And when we battled back and we held them 3 straight punts. We battled back and cut it within 7. I mean, it's a 17-10 game, 7-0 essentially. Man, just keep battling, keep fighting, keep playing. But the moment the next piece of adversity hits, it's like, here we go again. And I think that's probably been the biggest thing, is to getting the belief to say, look, we've got to keep staying together and keep riding through the adversity. There is going to be brightness on the other side of it. But we got to keep pushing through this, and it's going to take us to have to win a game to where we come from behind and we battle through some tough adversity to say, okay. And it may take us having to win 2 or 3 like that to say, okay, flipping a mindset. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've, is that, look, hey, when something hits us, we've got, all it did was just step us back. We're not knocked down. Let's keep pushing forward. And that's been our message, and that'll continue to be my consistent message.
Hey, Chad, I had a personnel question. The guys who were dinged up in the game, Woods and Gary Cross, guys like that, their availability. And with Chevin Callaway, did something happen in practice last week? I understand Tuesday something might have happened. And what's his status right now?
He is, as I mentioned Saturday, it's no different from what I said Saturday. He's out on some personal family issues that he's dealing with, and we're helping him through. With the Mike Woods, and I anticipate Mike to play. He was out there yesterday. We'll see how he feels today. The Gary Cross was doubtful. So.
I didn't ask about Dorian Gerald.
Dorian was out running yesterday. It'll be day-to-day. Dre Greenlaw will be day-to-day.
Hey, Chad, with all this negativity these past couple games, have any other coaches reached out to you to offer any words of encouragement, and if so, what were they?
Well, the thing about it is that, when you're in this profession, you control what you can control. And, you rely back on what you've done that's gotten you to this point. And sure, a lot of coaches reach out, as we all do, and text each other, congrats, or hang in there, keep your head up. But you just control what you can control. You keep pushing forward, and you know that, hey, we're in a storm, but the storm will pass.
It's Devian Warren also what's his status for this week?
We expect him back. He was out there yesterday.
And also, how do you feel Ramsey did his first game back as far as adding some pressure?
Yeah, I thought he definitely brought some edge rush that we needed. He played 26 snaps, I believe that's what it was, and so we still not quite 100%, but he's getting closer. He was a little sore, but that's to be expected being in the first game. So for him, so we're excited to have him back.
And also Colton Jackson, how you feel he did his first game back?
Yeah, same thing. He did some good things. You could definitely tell it was his first game, but we'll continue to bring him along. He was sore as well, but definitely will give us some depth in our offensive line. Was pleased with Noah Gatlin at left tackle again. And just for a freshman to be put in those situations the last 2 weeks, and so hopefully we'll be able to get Colton back in there to help out as well.
There was all that talk about you and Gus and the whole relationship coming up. You finally get a chance to face him this week. Just thoughts going into that game and going, against a friend and a foe in the SEC.
Yeah, a guy that a great friend of mine, and with Christy and Paula and. Friends so yeah, I've played against Gus before, and got great respect for him and what he's done and how he's taken that program and definitely done a fabulous job, as he's done everywhere he's ever been. And so I look forward to getting our football team better. That's what I look forward to.
When you talk about traveling 70 players, the rule for SEC games. What does that look like in terms of like skill guys? Like how many wide receivers would you travel? 7 or 8 or more than that? And running backs, tight ends? Like
Yeah,
how many do you allocate?
We're still going. It's kind of a sliding scale. A lot depends on how the week goes. Usually like travel four running backs and as many as 8 wide receivers, 7 to 8. And then more so on your defense and offensive fronts. That's what you try to put the majority of your numbers in, but. You try to get to your 70. You limit some of the guys that all they've done is just play special teams, and only been on maybe 1 or 2 of those teams, and so those guys will not travel. You know, it does present a challenge when you have to reduce down to 70 when we've been traveling 85.
Coach, you kind of, back over here, you kind of summed it up a little bit earlier, but if you could just talk about the challenges you're facing on offense, I think that might be, for fans at least, one of the things they're a little surprised about just because of your background in offense. So maybe to hear you explain kind of what's the struggle there right now overall?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I think, you know, you could see the inconsistency in a lot of areas. You know, the timing with the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. You saw a little bit of that the other day. Some of that was because we have a true freshman out there, and everybody wants to put it on the quarterback when you know it was on the true freshman. Inconsistency up front with just our inability. We ran the ball really effective last week, and the first week and the third week we haven't been as effective and as efficient. And so just a lot of inconsistencies all across the board. And I think that when you look back, and we've been talking about the quarterback since April, and, you know, believe me, I want to settle on one. That's what I want to do. And that's the direction we're trying to get to. And so, but there's been the inconsistencies through that as well. And right, wrong, and different, it's not all on the quarterbacks. But, you know, that's the position, and that comes with that position. And so, but yeah, but the one thing I do know is that I do know offensive football. I know what it takes to be successful. I do know what it takes to score points. And that's one of my messages as we go back in and go back to basics, is that, look, let's get good at, if it's only 4 things we can do, then let's just get good at those 4 things. Maybe we're not ready to have. Maybe we only get 10% of the offense in this year. Let's be very effective with 10% of that offense that we get in. And I think as a coach, as a coordinator, you look at trying to provide answers. That when you have deficiencies, where are the answers? And we're always searching for answers. And that's just what we do offensively. And so we were back in there yesterday, and we're working tirelessly. The entire staff is. You know, I know the frustration and the disappointment. We all feel it. We're going to get it. But we're working tirelessly to get it and get it right. And so we're gonna go back to basics.
Tight ends haven't been targeted a whole lot through the first 3 games. Is that just product of what defenses have given y'all, or would you like to get those guys more involved in the passing game?
Well, they've been targeted. We just hadn't gotten it to them, or we've had them out in routes, and the read progression hadn't presented it to them. So yes, we've gotten them in that area. We were running a lot of 12 personnel last week, and had several opportunities to try to get the ball and drive a ball on a tight end, and we just hadn't been able to get it done.
Games Ty has played, in the quarters he's played, what has he done well for what you guys need to do? And then how are the quarterbacks in their progressions with the passing game as well, like finding receivers as they work through progressions?
Yeah, I think Ty is since April or since spring, and working all through fall camp is been efficient and understands the offense, as I've said many times. Has played an offense similar to this. Knows how to get the ball out of his hands, get us in the right protections, be able to pull the ball down and run it with his legs at times. From a progression standpoint from the quarterback, usually what happens is you have one read, and if that read's not there, then you scan across the field. And so part of us and part of what you do as a coach is maybe you cut the full field reads down, and maybe you just go a half field read, and to simplify, to reduce, simplify, and clarify, to make things a little bit simpler.
Have you had to do that at this point, or is that something you're going to have to do now?
We're gonna continue in all areas, try to get back to basics and simplify things.
It was a small sample size, but what do you think of the way Nolan played on Saturday?
Connor, I thought he did some good things. I thought that to put him in with that situation, as I shared with him, I said, hey man, just go play. Go play. At that point, what the score was, go play. And, I thought we had a sprint out called for him on the first play, and wasn't there, and pulled it down and ran. And I think he showed some of his athleticism. So, I thought he did some good things. I know there's a couple passes that he wishes he had had. We had, I think we had Grayson tied in open down the middle, the seam, and wish we could have driven it on him. But we'll continue to work these guys.
Hey, Chad, we've heard some snippets about you coming up here and meeting Gus when he was at Springdale, or was it Shiloh first? But the whole story, was it a handshake the first time and just an introduction, and then maybe the next time a little bit further? When did he start opening the keys up a little bit to his system?
Yeah, I think it might have been 2002, 2001. I'm trying to, I have to go back and look at the year. But yeah, I did. We actually went down and saw him in Little Rock, and at a game, and then came up here in January. And there were several times I took a couple trips to watch him play, and just to say, look, I'd love to talk ball, and he was very reserved at that time, and it wasn't until my persistence, I should say, and he eventually opened up the door and said, come see us in January. And so, and we did, and that was January of that year, whatever year it was, and from that point forward, we've talked ball quite a bit.
Yeah,
Starting at Colorado State and starting at Auburn are obviously two very different things. So is there anything that you can tell Ty to kind of prepare him for the environment he's going to face?
No, I think Ty has played, if I'm not mistaken, I think he has played at Auburn, I believe. And, it's football. We got to worry about ourselves. We got to worry about getting prepared, understanding what they do defensively, getting us in the right protections, getting us in the right calls, and go play. That's really what it boils down to, and understand, and for us as coaches to give the clarity of what we want out of this.
Hey, Chad, Armon Watts, he's a guy that hadn't played hardly at all until this year. It seems like he's making some plays for you. What have you thought about him as a senior, maybe finally getting a shot? And how often do you and Gus usually talk during the year? And I assume you don't talk this week, or maybe you do. I don't know.
Well, first of all, Armon is playing at a high level. He's really doing some really good things, and a lot of times when you get a player that has been in the program for as long as he has, once he gets his chance to be that leader, a lot of times what we've found in the past is guys that may not have been a leader early on in their career or even their junior year, once they realize that it's their turn, they're the guy, something just changes, and the leadership changes, his style of play changes, and it's just a lot of maturity. And so I'm very proud of him. He's been consistent, and as I shared with him yesterday again, to keep giving that effort. It's allowing us to put Sosa out there on that edge. As far as Gus, I mean, we've talked through the course of the year and texting back and forth, and but I have not talked to him this week.
Coach, so far I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from recruits. What's your message to them after the start of this season?
Well, I mean, my message to them is the same message I give to our football team. I mean, hey, look, we're in a storm, and when you face adversity and you face a storm in your life, I mean, the one thing you do know for certain is it'll eventually pass. I don't know when, but it will pass if you believe it. And same way with recruits. Talking to these recruits and having them on campus is, hey, look, we're in a storm, and if you're going to jump off ship, I mean, hey, you're going to go through storms in your life. You better understand that we're every day we wake up, we're in the process of getting better, and it's something that we have to offer here at the University of Arkansas is the opportunity to come in here and be a part of a program that's going to continue to grow and get better.
Compare this to SMU, but you did go through some trying times at SMU, and it's early in 3 games here. I mean, what did you learn maybe that you can kind of take from that situation to deal with the situation you're dealing with here?
Well, I've gone through trying times in everywhere I've ever been, and so you always take a little bit from every stop, and people that you've worked for when you've gone through trying times, and what can you build off of. And the one thing that is consistent is my message. Of the one thing we can control. There's a lot of uncontrollables, and if we focus our energy on all the uncontrollables, then we're wasting time and effort on things we can get better at. And that's our message, is we've got to get better. We got to focus on ourselves, look in the mirror, and we just have to get better. I mean, that's the bottom line, is we got to get better in all phases.
I'm curious to what you think about the physical nature of your team and how you could improve that, and what practices will be like, early in the season. Do you focus on heavy hitting days, or what is it that you're looking for?
Well, I think from a defensive standpoint, I think that we didn't tackle well, and I know that's an area that Chief will address. We'll go back and do some things, back to some basics in some areas. Will we go out there tomorrow and line up and go good on good all week long? Absolutely not. That's not the answer. The answer is going back to fundamentals and techniques and staying on that course. We do it every day, but we got to do it better every day now. And so practice from that standpoint won't change. We'll do some things a little bit different as far as some tackling on each side of the ball. But that's my message.
Hey, Chad, Mike Woods had a pretty big game for you. What'd he do to get those catches? And he obviously was suspended the first game. How'd he handle all that to where he came, through it pretty well, it looks like?
Well, he did, and I thought he made some really good catches. I thought he went up on some 50-50 balls and some contested balls, and was able to go up and make some plays. He's a young player that's going to be really good. He's got a lot to learn in and out of breaks, route running. He'll only continue to get better.
And just the way he handled that being suspended.
Yeah, I think as you see that he owned, he made a mistake, and for every consequence there's some actions got to be taken, or for every action there's a consequence, and he understood that and accepted that and moved forward, and continues to get better. Was on scout team and came down and gave him the best look he could give on scout team. So he is going to have a great career.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.